when me and Miss Tina talked about me speaking, we talked about the business end of writing. I come with an accounting background, so I know all about record keeping. And one thing you need to learn as a writer is writing is a business, and you need to keep good records. Now, you get when it comes to tax time, a lot of people they just get in a panic because they don't understand that you do file your income and you pay taxes, self-employment taxes on your writing income once it reaches a certain threshold. But anyway, some of the things that IRS says is that you can claim necessary business expenses. Does anybody have any ideas of what those might be? Ink. Yes, ma'am.
Writers' conferences.
Conference fees, dues, business cards, supplies, dues, fees, if you join, mileage, you go to meetings, editing fees, any kind of fees, any money that you put into your business, almost every bit of it is tax deductible. They're very easy to keep track of your expenses. Get a spreadsheet. You don't like a spreadsheet? Use a notebook. Give it to your CPA. You don't have to get real technical with it. You file a Schedule C. You file that with your standard 1040. If you don't have enough itemized deductions to itemize your 1040, you can take standard deduction. But some of the expenses, and I'm going to go over these, I'll mention many of them, but you have to prove that you're actively pursuing a career in writing. Well, what would you do to prove that? Do you have any idea what you would do to prove that? Publish. Have your receipt. Have your receipt.
Keep track of your submissions.
Keep track of your submissions. Now, go ahead. LLC. Yes. An LLC, a business, set up your business name, that would definitely prove it. When I started way back when, we mailed our manuscripts off. So you always had proof that you were actively pursuing a career in writing. Now it's all email. So what do? That used to be called, mail it to yourself, used to be called the poor man's copyright. It was protected under copyright law. You mail a hard copy to yourself. Do not open it unless you are called to prove that this is your idea. It's been plagiarized. One of the way to prove is to send letters to agents, editors, publishers. If you do it by regular mail, you keep a receipt, or keep track of it. Postage is deductible. And if it's email, you can print out your emails and have that, or just have a folder in your email file, submissions. And when you send one, you can have, I don't know if you can do a subfolder under your sent folder, but you take it and send it to that particular folder. So keep them in a folder, put them on a thumb drive. Same thing with receipts. I have a subfolder in my email that's receipts. All my email receipts go in that folder for whatever. Your PayPal fees, if you collect money through PayPal, banking fees are deductible. Office supplies, paper, ink, envelopes, business cards, postcards, and on your Schedule C, they have a place that says office supplies that you expect to use within a year. You can file up to $200 with no receipts. So watch, when you fill out your Schedule C, just pay attention to the questions and answers. If you have a separate room in your house that you use as an office, you can take a percentage of your mortgage and utilities for that room. Long distance phone calls that are related to your writing, if you have a separate phone line for your writing. Internet fees, those are all tax deductible. Let's see, shipping. When you order your books, you pay shipping. If you ship books to somewhere, you pay shipping. Your shipping is tax deductible. They are considered necessary business expense. And I'm going to email this to Miss Tina, and she can get a copy to everybody. because there'll be a lot of y'all are taking notes. If you have any questions, please interrupt me. We mentioned this: memberships, dues, conference fees, hotel expenses, gas mileage. If you would leave here and go eat as a group, your meals, that's deductible. Even for unpublished writers. Unpublished writers can file these expenses also, as long as you can prove you're actively pursuing a career in writing. So if you're going to a writer's meeting every month, but you're not doing anything, now when you first get started, you're going to be going to conferences and stuff, but you're networking. So you can claim those expenses, your mileage, your hotel fees, and things like that. Get business cards. Keep track of business cards that you collect. If you're ever asked, throw them in the box with your tax return for that year. So yes, I talked to so and so said that proves that you were asked that meeting. Keep their, excuse me, I have to keep a cough drop in my mouth. Keep the brochures, notes that you take, folders that you get, put everything about that conference and staple it all together, put it in an envelope or something, keep it all together. And if you're ever audited, you have some proofs and these are necessary business expenses. For mileage, I MapQuest it and I save it in my folder. I save it on my computer. And like for today, I'll MapQuest from my home address to here and back. And then I'll save it in a folder. And when I do my mileage for the year, I have all my mileage for the year.
Can I ask you? I do a lot of driving myself, and I write mileage down. I take pictures of my odometer. But what did you say? What did you use?
I'll MapQuest it. You go online, do MapQuest, and it gives you the directions. And
is that like an Apple app?
It's just on the computer. You can just
type in the directions to use your GPS. Take a screenshot of that. Or to yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's what I usually do is take pictures of my odometer or something. But I mean, if you get them more organized, MapQuest, I'm gonna have to look at it.
Well, all that does is give you the directions and the mileage also. So it's not a tracking program, right? It's just it gives you the mileage. Like when I drive to Bayou Writers Group meeting in Lake Charles, it's the same mileage every week. So I MapQuest it once, and then it's round trip mileage, and then I can multiply it times 12 or 10 or however many months I go to the meeting. So, but you have to have some kind of physical evidence of your mileage.
And I do that. Well, I use an Access database, and my CPA loves it, but it's a lot of
right. Well, in the old days, I just kept a ledger, date, time, meeting,
that too.
To and from, round trip, and I just write it down. But now with computers and spreadsheets are so easy. That's a writer's, other than Word, spreadsheet is a writer's best friend. It truly is. So,
thank you.
Okay, then fees related to the creation, the development, and the maintenance of your website, your domain name. If you pay GoDaddy for monthly fees or whatever to keep your website or an annual fee, your domain is paid annually. If you pay somebody to build your website, that's all tax deductible, even if you're not published yet. Anything related to your website, internet fees are tax deductible. If you pay for somebody to maintain your website, that's all taxable. To build it and maintain it, or make changes to it, update it, anything like that. Anytime you pay out fees for a website, it is tax deductible. Professional fees and services. Do you have a tax consultant? Do you have a CPA? Do you pay for a professional evaluation of your manuscript? A lot of people say, don't do that. But let me tell you something. When I first started writing, I paid $150 for a professional evaluation. It was the best money I ever spent. So now be careful. But if you have somebody that charges that, but they can tell you, yes, you're going in the right direction. No, you can't do this, or yes, you can do that, whatever. They will help you narrow your focus. So there's a lot of people still do them, mostly editors. So they'll do an evaluation, then they'll give you a fee for editing. And if you pay for the evaluation, sometimes they waive those fees, but any of those fees are tax deductible. If you have an attorney that you consult to, your copyright fees, if you file with the Copyright Office, those are tax deductible. Any questions or any suggestions? So my next topic under this was, how do you keep track of those expenses? Again, spreadsheets. Excel is the easiest, the quickest. You don't have to pay for QuickBooks. You don't have to pay for all that. You just keep track of your income, and you keep track of your expenses, keep track of your mileage. It's easy, it's fast, and if you do use a CPA, they will love you because it makes it easier. It makes it easier for them to file your taxes if you are organized. Because trust me, I've worked as a tax preparer also for quite a while, and so I know. I mean, I've had somebody come set a box on my desk and say, "Okay, here you go," and you got to figure all that stuff out. I can list some additional items that can be written off for published authors. Promotional expenses, brochures, flyers, press kits, press releases, anything you pay for, postcards. If you get postcards, you mail them to your newsletter list. It's okay. I go through that. Advertising cost. Any kind of advertising you do, if you buy advertising online with a newsletter like Library Journal or Fussy Librarian or Readsy or any kind of book club, any kind of online promotion, those expenses are all taxed. Cost of goods sold. Does anybody know what your COGS is? Cost of goods sold. I order these books, they cost me. Okay. Whether you order one or you order 5,000, you pay for these books. Now, I don't do the inventory. I write off the cost of goods sold as I sell books. So if I order 50 books, but I only sell 10 that year, I only count the cost of goods sold there. Because if you go in the inventory, this is an every year thing. You have to do it every year. How much inventory you brought in, how much inventory you sent out, that's a pay. I just do cost of goods sold. So if I report $1,000 of income, and I may have $400 of the cost of books sold. Sometimes I had started doing my cost of goods sold. I would take, let's say the cost of books was $50 and the shipping was $10. Then I would add 50 cents to the cost of goods sold, and I just counted it all at once. You can do it that way if it's easier for you, or you just count your shipping separately. So I've done it both ways, unless you get audited and they say, you have to be consistent, or you can't do it this way, you have to do it that way. I've never had that problem. So whatever's easiest for you to keep track of. You pay taxes on your books when you order. You pay tax to get it in. That's tax deductible. So,
because with the books I bought it, I just declared it in that year and never did the cost of it sold. Whatever sold, that's what I declared. Yeah. Now, that's not the right word.
So you say you bought $1,000, you spent $1,000
Right.
to get books into your house, but you only sold $200 worth. But you didn't do cost of goods. You claim that whole 1,000. Normally, that would fall under the way to do inventory. I bought $500 books at $2 a piece. I sold 100 at $5 a piece, and so I have 400 books left in stock. That's normally would go under the inventory, and I never liked that because I don't always carry books, and I don't always carry a lot of books. Sometimes I might have 3 copies of everything I have. I have 14 titles, so getting 100 copies of 14 titles, that can run into some money. So that's why I do it the way I do it. Again, if you're doing your own taxes, read the, your little tax program, a TurboTax or whatever. They have the little question mark where you get more information. But I like to do the cost of goods sold because it's easy. I sell $20 worth of books. They cost me, $4 or $5, whatever the total cost is. That's all I write off, and it shows my income.
But CPAs know this, so if they start doing that, our CPA,
Your CPA, and they'll be able to tell you the best way. Again, a CPA will probably I do everything simple. I do my own. So I do the Schedule C, and I do it very simple and very clean. CPA would probably take it and find me a whole lot of deductions that I don't know about. But I'm not at that level yet. I'm not at that level yet. Now, as things continue to grow, that's going to be my next step, because I always will do the real heavy bookkeeping. I'll keep track of everything. Okay, you figure out the deductions. You missed this one, you missed that one. It's okay.
And see, this year I started doing accessories to the book,
Mm-hmm.
like the journals, because my books everything I
Mhm.
did. So I added a journal, I added a puff,
Mm-hmm.
like silk and ring.
Mhm.
And so now I got the box, I got all of this, and
You got a lot of products.
Of course, I bought them in bulk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I got a mess. First, I gotta go back to us. Cousin
Well,
Bookstore, because
since this
naturally I didn't.
If you kept track of your sales, since you haven't filed for 2022 yet, if you kept track of your sales, it will be easy to go back and find your cost. Just look at your invoice and divide it by however many.
Well, what I'm saying, I got so many taxes, so I had to have something to cover the book, like the clear plastic, and I got had to have something to stuff them with.
Mhm.
And then I got the boxes, and then I got the cups, and then I got the journals. So one box could net me at least about 5 or 6 days. I got to do a couple of it, and I have left over. Because I had just started and should do a lot of it.
Well, yours might be easier to do the inventory because you have so much. So you have $2,000 worth of inventory, and then you sold X number, and then you have to report your inventory you have left over. And again, depending on the kind of products you have, you may do the inventory. Personally, I don't, because I don't have the space to hold that kind of stuff.
It sounds like she's got a lot of supplies and a lot of expenses.
Right, she's
like
got a lot of
covers. Stuff
But
like
you
that.
can't-
It's just this year.
You can't
I don't like inventory.
Yeah, normally you can't claim the full amount that you spend because you're not selling
Use
over
one.
and above that. So you can't say, now, like if you bought a computer, that's different. You can either depreciate it out, or you can take the full deduction that we're be done with it. And again, I do it very simple.
It's a difference, and then it's a difference. Well, I don't want to take it.
That's okay, go ahead.
It's a difference because I don't think I did the tax free.
Yeah, so you know
all
all
the
the yeah.
But I'll figure it.
I'm glad it's sorry it's you, but glad it's not me.
I'll figure it.
So other things that you can cost even as for published authors is your setup cost, your cover art, your ISBNs. The ISBNs, if you buy 10 of them this year, $300, write the whole thing off. And then you just don't have to worry about writing them off later in the year. You've already got your deduction. You don't have to think about it. It might take you 5 years to publish 10, use up 10 ISBNs, because you have to have an ISBN for the print book and an ISBN for the ebook, for sure. And depending on if you do audio, how that works, you have to have an ISBN for the audio. Mine are strictly through ACX, so I don't even do an ISBN audio. But if I was distributing them elsewhere, I would. If you pay for cover art, resale license fees, occupational license fees, if you do a DEA, like you have a PIN name, I write under my name, so I don't have to do that. But if you have a pen name, then you would be, say it would be Pamela S Thibodeaux writing as Harold James or Kyla Lynn or whatever my DBA is. You pay for that DBA. You pay for your LLC every year. Those fees are all tax deductible. If you have self-employed health insurance and as a writer, your health insurance is tax deductible. Charitable donations to a nonprofit. So your donation to this writing group, because they are a nonprofit, is a tax deductible. But if you were paying dues and fees to a different group, those are also. Education expenses, or you working toward a degree, an MFA or a BFA, or fine arts. Any of your education expenses. Do you take writing classes? Do you do leisure learning classes? Do you take online courses with other authors on world building or promotion? Or advertising. That's all tax deductible. And there's other miscellaneous expenses you can check. IRS publication 529 gives you a whole list of other types of deductions. Trademark and copyright fees. If you pay to list your book at the Copyright Office, which is $65 per title, that's tax deductible. Do you trademark your tagline? My tagline is inspirational with an edge. It's trademarked, okay? Which is just like a copyright. The minute I put that TM behind it, it's mine. Now, if I register that trademark, those fees, those registration fees, are tax deductible. Do you subscribe to Writer's Digest, Writer's Journal, any of those? Tax deductible, your subscription fees. If you subscribe to a website where you take classes regularly and things like that, those are tax deductible. If you buy books like Writer's Market Guide or anything like that, those are all tax. You buy books for research. You want to write in a different genre than you normally write, and you buy, like, you want to start writing fantasy, but you don't know anything about it, so you buy 10 different authors to study. Those are tax deductibles. Now you can't just take all of your readings and
Watch out.
But if you're actively writing in that genre and you're pitching in that genre and you can prove that you did this to study it, it has to be necessary and it has to be reasonable. Again, these rules change every year. So always, always, always check with a tax expert. I'm not a tax expert. I do my own, but I'm not a tax expert. So please check with them.
Can I ask you, I tend to do that. I tend to, some books are, I would say, it's not certainly going to be my genre, but I want to listen, I want to read, and I want to what they're doing, and see if I can pick up on some of their styles. And
not necessarily. It tends to have to be your genre, or you're going into that genre. You're wanting to write in that genre, and it's totally different. So you have to have some research. You have to know how to world build. You have to know how to. If you're wanting to adapt your books to a screenplay and you take a course on screenplay writing, or you buy screenplay writing books, or you buy a book that has sample screenplays in it, those things are because you're doing that. You're venturing into that avenue of writing. And that's about all the deductions that I have. My other note is just, if you're worried about being audited, just don't worry. Be careful, be honest, and if you have a question. A lot of CPAs now, maybe not in the middle of tax season, a lot of things you can research it online. Is this tax deductible? And it'll tell you. And again, that publication, the IRS publication, 529, I think it was. They list a lot of fees.
Can I add a comment on CPAs? Not all CPAs know what they're doing. I'm not trying to. There's no CPA, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, some are not. They're not just. Yeah, some are more experienced, or they're focused on this, and they really don't know too much about that.
Right.
That's the sort of thing I'm
Right.
saying.
Yeah.
So you gotta
Research your CPA too. You know, ask them. Do you file taxes for self-employed business? Have you filed for a writer or an artist? Now there is a your Schedule C that you use. It's a profit and loss statement. You file it with your regular taxes, and your professional activity code is 711510. Or if you just put it in, it's under performing artist section. So I mean, it's all this comes up when you go to do the Schedule C. It's going to ask you all these questions. And if you're doing an online tax program, it has the question mark and it pulls up the box where you can find out what it is. You can just Google it. What is the code for the tax code for a writer, and it'll pull it up for you. Man, the internet has made things so easy. So easy. There's a couple other publications that you can request. And again, I'm going to send this to Miss Tina and she'll distribute it to everybody. Tax Guide for Small Businesses and Individuals is publication number 334. Or publication number 535, which is business expenses. It tells you what you cannot deduct business expenses. And then number 552 is record keeping for individuals. But it's real easy to keep your records. The smart thing would be to keep them monthly. But if you don't do that, keep them all in one place, either a manila envelope, a little tray. Keep them just when you get a receipt, throw it in there. And then you can go at 2 or 3 times a year or at the end of the year and do it all at once. I always mean to do it quarterly or something, but end up doing it at the last minute. But if you just keep them all in one place, it'll be easy to, and then you get 1099s from the publishers. If you're self-published and you have distributors, any online distributors or anything like that, if you bring books on consignment and you get income from that, if you write for publications, like I write for Lanyap in Lake Charles, so I'll get a 1099 for that. So there's your income. So that proves you're actively, pursuing a career because you have income. Not all the income is deductible. It is taxable. Depends on how much it is. But, once you start filling out that form, and yes, you can take standard deductions over itemized and still file your business expense. And usually what that does is lower your taxable income. So if you're working and you're paying in tax and your taxable you're already expecting a refund and you have a $500 loss on your business, that's going to give you a bigger refund. It might not be the full 500, but it's going to increase your refund. There's also a Julian Block is his name. He has tax tips for freelance writers, photographers, and artists, and he's a nationally recognized attorney that does these kind of taxes. And his is Julian Block, taxexpert.com. Again, I'll send this to Miss Tina and she can get it. And if you're not a writer, but you're an artist, craftsman, a lot of these are still tax deductible. Choreographers, mileage and things like that. My son is a choreographer and he has airfare, mileage and kind of stuff, that he does tax. Now, Miss Tina had asked me about nonprofit organizations. Nonprofit organizations do file a tax return. The tax exemption is on income tax, and it's based on if your organization sells product, then you have to sell under a certain amount a year. I don't know if it's 5,000 or 50,000 or whatever. If you sell under that a year, then you're tax exempt for income tax. However, every individual person or this nonprofit organization, say y'all did an anthology and y'all sold this anthology, you have to file sales tax. You have to collect and file and pay sales tax. So as an author, when you're selling your books, you should set up with your parish and state. It's parish e-file. You do it all online nowadays, and every month or quarter you claim your taxes, your sales tax. it tends to be a pain if you have lots of 0 months. Like, so again, be honest, but be reasonable. I mean, if you're going to sit there and file 0 taxes, which we did for Buy Your Irish for years, and finally I'm like, this is crazy. You just need to shut us down. Because we're not selling anything, and you still have to go file those 0. You can't not file it, because then they're going to send you a letter and say, oh, you didn't file this month, so we estimate you owe us $150. Well, where are you getting your estimation? We just estimate it. Then you have to go in and file it, write it off and things like that. So as a business, you do have to do your sales tax individually, or your company.
Question. So is that per, like, say you only sell 20 books then? Is there
If you sell 1 book, you're supposed to collect and pay sales tax.
that's fine.
Trust me, you do not want to be out.
Well, and there are so many authors and artists and things like that. How to know if they know you're on their radar. I guess it depends on how popular you are and how big you are. Things like that. Because there's so many and they don't do it because they're not selling any books, or all their books are being sold through the distributors. They're not really selling. And then, now here's another thing. If you have a book and you give it to, like I was to give this to Miss Tina, or I was to give this to the bookstore owner, or I was to send it to a church to possibly speak at their church, the cost of your book sold, it is tax write-off, as it's called gifts and promotions, or gifts and promotion. So you can do that. So if you you're buying your books and you're giving them to people as a gift, or to promote yourself as an author or as a possible speaker, that's tax deductible.
Like an in-kind service. Yeah. Is there a limit to how many you can do a year?
To give away?
Yes.
I've never heard of a limit. Now I would imagine if you claimed 1,000, you better have some proof that you sent it. But if you mailed it to the church, you mailed it to 15 churches or 100 churches, and you've got your proof that you mailed it, which is simply just keep your receipt. Says where it goes. You can write on the receipt where it went, and keep a copy of the letter you sent.
Make a picture of your post office receipts, because they fade after about 6 months.
Right.
Yeah.
And they have an application that you can have on your phone. I forget the name of it, and it does that. You just take a picture and it files it wherever it's supposed to go, and you can put. Then it goes to your computer. I don't have that. But, and you know what? If I filed my taxes and the receipts fade after 6 years and they audit me,
Yep.
What you gonna do? Now the IRS does require you to keep your income tax returns for 7 years, a minimum of 7 years. So you have to keep all that when you're filing business tax. You have to keep copies of your returns and keep your receipts. That's what I said. Just put it all in a box. Just put it all in a box. Label the box or an envelope.
And isn't there something where you have to keep them over the amount? 7 years.
Minimum of 7 years.
Unless you get audited and when they question, then they might go back.
Right. I usually try to keep about 10. They're normally not going to go back more than 10 years. And had a thought on that.
Let's get out of this part.
That's okay. What I do, like I write for Lanyap, and so I count my mileage if I go pick up copies, or I don't usually do that. I don't usually count my mileage for that. But because I write for them and I get a 1099 from them, I had started keeping the whole paper, and like that adds up too much space. So I just started tearing my articles out, and I just make a copy of the check, tape it to it, staple it to it, and just keep that. And I just keep it with my taxes because I'm a writer, and writing is not necessarily just books. If you speak, if I was to have printed out these for everybody, which I didn't know how many people would be here, so I didn't do that. You know, that's all expenses that are tax deductible.